Hi, Kitty.
Okay, I think we should go ahead and get started. So everybody who's watching, welcome. Welcome to our AAPI Book Month panel. Our panel is about Asian food and identity, which is very exciting to me as someone who loves food. I'm Alexa, and I blog and post on YouTube and Instagram, all under Alexa Loves Books. And I'm being joined by 4 lovely people today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves so they can also tell us a little bit about their books, whether it is something that's already out or something that's upcoming. So I think, who wants to go first? Does anyone want to go first? Or am I going to randomly? Okay, I think Gloria should go first.
Hey everyone, I'm Gloria Chao. I'm the author of American Panda, Our Wayward Fate, and my upcoming book is going to be Rent a Boyfriend. So I write YA contemporary about identity and complicated family dynamics with hopefully some laughs in there and a lot of romance. So my upcoming one is about a girl who hires a fake boyfriend from a company to introduce to her parents in the hopes that he will appease them. The problem is she ends up falling for the real guy behind the role, who her parents definitely won't approve of, and so her life becomes very messy. And it's based on a real thing that happens in some Asian countries, and that's going to be out this fall.
I am very excited for that book, by the way. Misa, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Misa Sugiura, and I'm the author of these 2 books. This time will be different. Okay, this time will be different. And this one came out a couple of years ago. It's called It's Not Like It's a Secret. And both books are, a lot like Gloria's in that about identity and complicated, a little romance, a little social, and so this time will be different is my most recent one. I have another one coming out in next fall, but we don't have a title or a cover or anything yet. So this time will be different. Is about a girl, Japanese American girl. She's sort of floating. She doesn't really have what her mom calls a vision for her life, and she finds solace in her family-owned flower shop. And sorry, I keep looking down because I have a cat in my lap who's misbehaving. So she finds solace in her family-owned flower shop, where she is learning to make flower arrangements that may or may not help fulfill people's heart's desires. And but then her mother decides to sell the shop to the very family who sort of cheated them out of that shop during the Japanese American internment. And then so now CJ has this, she finds something to fight for and something to like a vision or a purpose for her life. But of course, it's exactly the opposite of what her mom wants.
Of course it is.
Yeah. And there's kissing too. So
very important. Judy, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Judy Lin. My book is not out yet, but it'll be coming out in 2022. It's called Heart of Severed Leaves, and it is a YA fantasy inspired by ancient Chinese history, and in particular the Song Dynasty. So it's about Commoner Ning, who is a tea magician, and she goes to the palace to attend a tea competition in hopes to save her sister, and she becomes involved in the palace intrigue and of course falls in love with someone who she probably shouldn't be in love with, and has to kind of fight for her life. So yeah, that's
the best kind of fantasy. And the tea magic too. That sounds awesome. And Roselle, finish us off with your introduction.
My debut came out last year. This one, Natalie Tan's Book of Luck and Fortune. It's about a chef who comes home after her mother's death to reclaim her grandmother's restaurant and her grandmother's legacy. And the next book, Vanessa Yu's Magical Paris Tea Shop, is coming out August the 4th this year, and it's about Vanessa, who has the gift of clairvoyancy, and she wants to control it. So she follows her aunt to Paris, and her aunt's giving her clairvoyancy lessons in hopes that she can control her destiny.
Oh, sounds like it's going to be fun.
I can't wait for this fall. Like, I'm so
I can't wait for
everyone's book.
everything.
Yeah.
They all sound great. Okay, so we're going to get to talk about food, which I'm sure we can all agree is a very big and essential part of our lives, especially because we all come from different Asian heritages. I know that like food for me is like a whole language that my family speaks, and there's a very particular subtext to that. So let's start easy, and we'll talk about what is your favorite memory involving food. It can be like a childhood memory. It can be a very recent one. Anybody want to go first? All right, Roselle, take us away.
One of my favorite memories is during like Christmas time. At Christmas time, I have a large family. It's all on my mom's side. And we all have our food out right on the table. Aunties have their signature dishes right on there. And one of them is a roasted chicken.
Oh,
My cousin, I'm not going to name him to humiliate him, but my cousin looked at this spread. He was, I think, 15 at the time. He loves chicken skin. He disrobed that chicken. Completely disrobed it. It was naked. He comes back and like, yeah, there was like a naked chicken. And it's like, you know how it's the best piece of the chicken? But yeah, he ate that and got in trouble for it. But I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I don't have the guts to do it. I wanted to do it on several occasions, but he had the guts to pull it off. That's my food memory.
I mean, he's probably very, very dedicated to having that chicken skin. Can't say I blame him. It's great. And who wants to go next? I'm going to say Misa should go next.
Oh, okay. I don't have so many. I just love food so much. I don't have a specific memory. It's sort of like a hodgepodge, an amalgamation of memories of New Year's. So Japanese people celebrate New Year's on like the sort of regular Western calendar, but it's in Japan. New Year's Day is like it's like American Christmas, right? It's a family day, and there's this huge feast, and my mom, when I was little, would make oh my goodness. Oh, it's my cat. Okay.
Oh, I see her. Causing trouble.
Well, we'll just keep the books on the floor for now. She would make, there's like, I don't know, 8 or 10 different little dishes that go, and they're involved like soaking things and brining things and preparing things for days. And she would do this for us when I was growing up, and, spend like basically all of leading up to Christmas doing the Western Christmas. And then from Christmas to New Year's, she'd be in the kitchen again, making New Year's food. And I just admired her so much for that. And I loved her for putting all that work into, sort of keeping this culture for us and teaching. And none of it was food that we really liked either. So she knew we weren't going to eat all of it, but it was important to her that we tasted everything. So that was.
Oh, I love that though, that she really tried her best to make sure you guys had the experience of it.
Yeah.
Judy, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I'm from Taiwan, so I live in Canada now, but I usually go back every couple of years. And the one thing that I love about going back is the fresh fruit. So I had my honeymoon in Taiwan, so it was nice to bring my husband, who's not from Taiwan, there, and then also to bring my daughter there after we had our daughter. And then we usually go to this shaved ice shop, and it's just like such a memory from my childhood. So I have a photo of it. I don't know if Kat can put it up on there, but you can order bowls with various sizes of fruit. So you can start with like a 1 person and then a 2 person, and then it gets to this size, which you can put your entire arm around it.
I was like, I would like some of that.
Yeah, and then they drizzle with condensed milk, and there's like different puddings on top. So it was really nice to be able to bring my daughter there, and then just to see her face light up when she sees this thing being carried out. So that was a really great memory for me. And then, of course, all the things she got to eat that were from my childhood, and she loved hearing the stories. Yeah.
Oh, that's really special. I'm glad you got to share that with her.
Yeah.
All right, Gloria, what you got?
So mine's a little bit more recent, but early on in my relationship with my husband, there was one Christmas break where we were talking about chili, and I said I hadn't really ever tried it, and he was talking about how to make it, and it was really late at night, but he was just kind of like, why don't we make it? And I was like, right now? And he was like, yeah. And so we actually stayed up till 3 a.m. making chili. And it kind of was a representation of a lot of the things in our relationship where a lot of times if I mention something, he's very much like, well, why don't we do it? And it's very different from kind of how I was brought up. And I think that actually played a pretty big part when I was trying to decide whether or not I still wanted to be a dentist. And, he kind of was the one who pushed me toward trying to do what I love. And so it's a good example of kind of how he makes me just go for things.
I love that.
He's chili.
Like, we're just going to do it.
Yeah.
Also, chili is great, though. And if you eat it at midnight, it's even better, I will say. Okay, we actually sort of started touching upon this. Like you guys sort of mentioned different family members in your stories. So food is something that sort of forms a connection with other people in your life. So do you guys have any thoughts on like how it impacts the way you interact with other people? It doesn't have to be people you know. It could be like complete stranger if you wanted to share a story like that, if you have one like that, or it could be just the relationship between you and someone who loves cooking as well. Like, it's interesting to me because some people really enjoy the art of cooking or baking. I am not one of those people, unfortunately. I enjoy eating, but that's about it. So you guys have any stories about how food has impacted your life or impacted your relationships outside of the ones you guys have already talked about?
I'm just gonna jump in with an observation and a question. And it's a little bit I don't know, it's a cultural question, I guess. Because this is something I've always wondered, which is like when my husband, for quite a long time, when my husband and I used to go to restaurants, I would critique the food as I ate it. And, like, oh, it's still a little salty, or I wish they'd done a little bit more of this. I mean, not always. I wasn't complaining. And he always felt like he's a white American, and he always was like, for a long time, he would get upset every time I did this. And we realized that it was because he thought I was complaining and I wasn't appreciating this like experience of eating food at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I feel like every time I went out, so I don't know if it's a me thing or a family thing or an Asian thing, where we would go to a restaurant and talk about the food and not complain about it, but
comment on it.
Yeah. So
do other members of your family do it, or is it just
yeah? So I know my mom and my dad do it, and that's then I was like, and I remember going to a restaurant with another. So I have a sample size of 3, which are my parents and one friend.
No, but that's still like,
who happens to be Asian. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know. For me, I don't, but that's also because my taste buds are basically like super basic. I'll be honest, like I eat pretty much anything. It's my husband who's a little bit more like that. Like he also likes to talk about the food as he's eating it, or like think about how he could improve things, I guess, if that makes any sense. Or like make it more to his taste. Like anyone else have like that, also that same experience? I'm just curious. I wonder if it's also if you're specifically going to a restaurant that's supposed to be serving food that you grew up eating. Because I feel like it's also possible to be a little bit more critical if you're going to, like, for me, like, since I'm Filipino, like if I go to a Filipino restaurant, I definitely am always like, this doesn't taste quite like I remember it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm curious, does it happen to everyone else too, where it's like, this isn't exactly what I wanted? Yeah. It's also very hard if you're not living in that country, because it definitely tastes different.
Yeah. Or it could be that I just complain a lot. I don't know.
Or I mean, it's also maybe that you're very intuitive about food. Like you have particular tastes, which is not a bad thing, I don't think.
I think I always just love talking about food, so I would talk about it all the time, and we would go out and try new places, and yeah, I think that's part of the fun for my family anyway, is talking about food and whether this is like another restaurant that we tried, or maybe it's something different that we've never tried before. So I think that's part of the fun for us.
Yeah, that's actually a good spin-off question. Is that something like, are all of you foodies? Do you guys like to go out and try new foods? Or are you more of the like, once you found your comfort zone, like this is all I want to eat?
I tend to, I'm the person in town. I live in a small town. So if a new restaurant is opening, I'm one of the first people to press my face against the glass and check it out and see what's going on. And like for me, it's discovering new things. I was really lucky to go on a writing retreat with Judy, and Judy and I had a ball. We just ate. We just ate. Like we went everywhere and we ate. It's a friendship. It's kind of like a friendship thing where, like Judy and I what did we end up doing? We were walking around Vancouver, and we're like, okay, we're gonna eat here for lunch-ish, but on the way to finding lunch, Judy and I would be stopping. Oh my god, there's a ramen place over here, let's take a look at the menu. Oh my gosh, there's a Korean place that serves fried chicken over here, let's go look at the menu. But this is like on the way to the place we were supposed to go. So when we finally got to the Chinese place, of course, we both ordered a ton of food because we're thinking, okay, it justifies it because we're sharing everything, right? I mean, when you go out with a friend, it gives you an excuse to order different stuff so you could just share and split. And that's what Judy and I did. We just ordered whatever the heck we wanted. And there was like a couple right beside us, an older couple. And they just had their really nice big bowl of soup, right, Judy? Like a big bowl of soup and like a little salad. And then Judy and I had like 5 plates. The whole table was covered.
We had like a 4-person table, dumplings and buns. I think that was like lunch. And then we had
that was
second lunch.
And then we were like, okay, we ate a lot. Let's go walk it off. So we walked to Stanley Park, took a little bit of a walk to build up an appetite just to go across the street from the first restaurant, which is an oyster house. Because Judy's like, I gotta have clams. And I'm like, I have to have oyster.
So clearly your friendship has a very important food factor in it.
Yeah.
There was some writing being done, but I think it was mostly eating.
Can't say I blame. Gloria, you have any stories?
Yeah. So most of my life before, up until high school, I mostly just had Chinese food because that's all my mom would make. And so now I actually really like trying a lot of things just because there were lots of different types of food that I just hadn't tried before. And that did actually impact a lot of my interactions in school because, it was pretty hard when other people would, comment on your lunch or smell like anything they had ever seen. And I explored that a lot in my second book, Our Wayward Fate, where the main character is the only Asian in her small, predominantly white Midwestern town. And I didn't grow up in I grew up in the Boston area, which is pretty diverse. And still, I had a lot of incidents even up until into my adult life. So unfortunately, food can have a negative impact too.
Agreed.
But the positive parts is that it's a huge part of my family life. Like our whole dynamic revolves around food. When we get together for the holidays, it's what are we going to eat next and when are we going to eat it? And we talk about it. But when we're not eating, we're watching the Food Network. And my parents aren't, great about showing their emotions, but food is one of their ways that they know how to tell you things. And so I use that in a lot of my writing, like in American Panda. The parents don't know how to tell May that they love her, but they know what her favorite study snacks are, dried squid, which is one of my favorites. And they keep track of how much she has, and when they know she's running low, they'll drive there in the middle of the night and drop some more off for her. In the book, it ends up they see some of her secrets, but that's a whole other story. But
you should read it. Everyone else should read it to find out.
But food is one of the way that that my parents kind of knew how to show us, right? They give you more food, they put more on your plate, they tell you to eat more. And so that's kind of one of the ways that they communicate.
Oh, I think that's true. That whole putting more food on your plate, because that's how they show they love you more.
Right.
Well, speaking of family, I was wondering, do any of you cook? You can also say if you bake, but cooking is what I wanted to focus on a little bit. And if you do cook, is it something that you were taught as a kid and like you grew up with your parents teaching you how to cook? Or is it just something you explored as an adult? Anybody want to go first?
I'll start.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I talk a little bit about my mom, and I used to watch her cooking these elaborate feasts. And so, yeah, so that was a way for me to connect with her, and just a really powerful personal way where she would pass, like I felt, you know, she was passing on culture. But it was also a way that it was something that I didn't know anything about, you know, because she didn't speak English as well as I did. She didn't, you know, like wasn't able to navigate American society the way that I learned how to navigate. And so it was a way that she could be an expert, and I didn't have to feel angry at her for telling me things that I thought I knew better than her. She also was a piano teacher, but I hated practicing piano. So like when she tried to tell me how to practice the piano, that was that was always a fight. Yeah, and in fact, so I use that connection in It's Not Like It's a Secret, where it's just, you know, like Sana and her mom are at odds a lot, but learning how to cook from her mom is a way that they can connect, and a way that, just like Gloria's expresses her love and her concern, and yeah. So anyway, yeah, so my mom taught me how to cook.
Oh, I love that. Anybody want to go next? Or am I going to have to call on someone?
I can go. Okay. So my mom cooked a lot growing up, and my dad is very into food. So she, you know, made a lot of variety of dishes. And I feel like she spent her whole life, you know, like every day when if I call her in the afternoon, she's like, oh, I'm like preparing to cook. And it was actually a little bit sad when I found out that she didn't love it for most of her life.
Oh.
And so she actually didn't teach me to cook. And growing up, like we never really, like she never wanted to pass down recipes to me. And now I understand why. And she said it wasn't until she, you know, recently that she is finally starting to enjoy it. So I do cook at home a lot, but I actually use mostly family recipes from my husband's side. So he's Greek. So we have a lot of the family recipes that don't have any measurements, you know, it's just like a list of ingredients, and you have to kind of just know, you like pour it in, and when you smell it, like that's, you know, enough.
That's it, it's ready.
Like, and you look at it, if you think there's enough breadcrumbs, then you can stop, you know, that kind of thing. But, you know, we'll make like Greek meatballs and moussaka. And so ironically, my Greek cooking is very good, but my Chinese cooking is very much lacking.
It's okay. I can't cook at all. So the fact that you can cook something is already impressive to me. I mean, when I say I can't cook, I mean like I can make things that were already pre-prepared.
Right.
Other than that, you will not catch me cooking. Like, I'm so sorry. You will catch me eating though. All right, Judy, Roselle, either of you want to jump in?
Yeah, I can jump in.
All right.
I guess when I grew up, my mom was always like, you know, stay out of the kitchen, you do your homework, you know, take care of the rest of the house. So she never really, I guess, taught my sister and I really how to cook. And even now when I ask her for recipes of things I remember, it's just like Gloria said, it's like a list of ingredients and then some vague instructions, and you kind of have to figure it out for yourself. And so I guess after I moved, because I lived in a bigger city, so there was a lot of access to like Chinese restaurants and Asian bakeries and stuff like that. So we moved around a lot, and so I live in a smaller place now where there's not really a lot of Chinese groceries or access to anything. So now I've had to kind of learn how to cook so that I can I won't feel sad when I remember, oh, there's this and that I miss eating. So that's kind of a way now I feel like I'm connecting to my culture is by cooking. And so I'm like learning how to make beef noodle soup and like making my own noodles. So it's kind of, and then now with staying at home, of course, I'm like baking a lot. So I'm making pineapple buns, and it's like, oh, this is actually kind of fun, and just learning. And then, yeah, so I'm connecting with my sister now because she's always sending me links about these recipes we should try, and then I'm sending her things. So it's kind of like a nice way of getting together with my sister online. So that's something I really enjoy.
I love that. That's such a great like way to connect now that you guys can't actually see each other at the moment. Okay, Roselle.
I'm curious. Sorry, I just want to ask Judy a quick question. What do you do about the access? I feel like that's part of the reason I never really tried with the Chinese cooking, because it's so hard to get the vegetables you need, the sauces, and sometimes I'm like, well, if I'm going to drive an hour to get all that, I might as well just order takeout from from Chinatown. So, like, do you substitute other things, or?
Yeah, I usually I can find a substitution because I mean, we get the basic, like we get the Napa cabbage and the bok choy, and that's about it. So then I usually pull from like, maybe if I can't get Chinese broccoli, I'll use maybe a different kind of bok choy, or I think it's just, you have to be creative. And then I always find these different hacks. And then okay, if you don't have this, then maybe you can do something else, and then it kind of tastes similar, and then just playing around with it until you figure out kind of what it'll turn out to be. And sometimes it's like a complete failure, but I think it's kind of fun to figure it out.
I mean, it also makes it more your own in a way, which I think is a nice.
That's true.
But it's actually equally hard for my sisters because they like to cook. They sometimes struggle finding certain things to make things taste like Filipino food because there's like certain flavorings we don't have, or they don't taste quite the same. So they did the same thing. Agree. Oh, Roselle, have you got a story?
My parents both work. I have immigrant parents, and they both work long hours. So what my dad would do is he would stick a note on the fridge that basically says, take out this, take out the pork, or take out the fish. Make sure that I'm making this for dinner. Make sure that it's prepared. And between my sister and I'm the only one who can touch the raw meat or even look at whatever without squealing. So all of that kind of fell to me to do. And that's how I learned how to cook. My grandmother, my Lola on my dad's side, was the one who taught my dad how to cook. And he's the main cook in the family. And he would be like, okay, what do you want to eat? And I'd be like, can you make lechon kawale? That would be great. And lechon kawale is roasted. It's like roasted pork belly.
And it's great.
It's delicious.
But the skin is different in that the Chinese roasted pork belly has tiny little bubbles. The Filipino one, the ideal one, is that you put the pig on the spit, you turn, you brush it. You brush it like a painting with brown sugar and soy sauce until the skin is completely like just crispy.
Darn,
you have to get the pork to a certain temperature so that all of the fat is gone, and what you have is like a little bit of fat and just this paper thin crispy skin on top. Sorry, I'm kind of hungry.
I'm just like, oh no, I want some too. But it's great. Oh, so you basically sort of learned by
I had
doing.
some of that.
Right?
I had that for the first time last summer. And so good. So good. The lechon kawale. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And the sauce is so special because it's made out of like the pork innards and onions and spices. So it's got like a very like, I would just say kind of like a sweet, earthy taste to it. There's that one sauce, and then the other alternative sauce is vinegar with chilies and garlic.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So Alexa knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Now I'm just like, I need to find some. Like that's the end result of this entire panel. I just need to find all this food. Okay, so now we're gonna talk a little bit about food and books, since everyone here is an author except me. I'm a reader. Okay. So let's start with your characters. If your character was to say that they had a favorite food in any of your books, by the way, what would that favorite food be, and what would it say about their personality, or what do you think it says about their personality? I feel like I'm going to say that Judy should go first because I'm very curious about your book and your character.
Okay, so I think that for my character, her name is Ning, and she's kind of a commoner girl. So she comes from a poor village and just grows up helping her physician father. So she works a lot, like growing plants and in the fields, and then so for them it would be a kind of like glutinous rice dumpling would be a food that they would grow up eating, because of course as a kid you would want to put a little bit of peanut sugar on top, and then you eat with like a little bit of soy sauce, and because they're poor, then they can only have they usually just add peanuts to it, and so there's bits of peanut to make it a little bit of protein with the glutinous rice. And when she goes to the palace, of course, they have like the fancy rice dumpling, which has like an salted egg yolk and like pork, like a rich pork in it, and then she finds it too rich. So that's actually something from my own childhood where that was my favorite dish, was these bamboo wrapped steamed rice dumplings. So I kind of put that into my my book just to remember remember like the smell of it, unwrapping them with my grandfather, because that was his favorite dish too. So
no, I like that.
So that was her, and then yeah.
All right, Gloria, do you want to go next?
Sure. For American Panda, it's going to be dumplings. My hardcover even has dumplings on the front there. Oh, I'm not good with the video here.
Okay. There it is.
It's on my spine and everything. And she uses dumpling metaphors. Like when she's keeping all these secrets from her parents, she talks about how it feels like she's trying to make a dumpling where she's put too many spoonfuls of filling and everything's bursting out. For Our Wayward Fate, she actually goes to Ding Tai Fung for the first time at the end of the book. And she loves the soup dumpling so much that she jokes about how UCLA and Washington are her top choices for college because they're near a Ding Tai Fung. And everything I put in there that she eats, the string beans, the stir-fried rice cakes. Those are all my favorite things at Ding Tai Fung, which is one of my favorite restaurants. And then in Rent a Boyfriend, her favorite food is actually in the book. It's part of it. And it's hot pot. And later on in the book, she goes on a hot pot date with Drew, and they actually use the hot pot as the first time they kind of talk about their feelings in a roundabout way, where they use fishball metaphors.
I love that. I'm so excited for that now. Roselle, do you want to go next? I know there's a lot of food in your books too.
For Natalie, I'm going to have to go with the yin yang fried rice. And the reason why it's called yin yang fried rice is because one half is covered in a tomato sauce. A tomato-based sauce. It has tomato, like a creamy tomato sauce with pieces of pork and onions. And on the other side is a cream sauce with peas and shrimp and diced asparagus. And what you do is you can eat the one side that's a bit more tangy and spicy. That's the tomato side. Or you can have the other one, the cream sauce, which is more of a subtler flavor. Or you can mix them both and they taste really great. For Vanessa, I'm going to have to go with French pastries. And it would have to be Madeleines. Madeleines, because they're just these fluffy little cake. They're like a cake cookie hybrid. And I like it when it's dipped into, like, the corner is dipped either in chocolate or different flavors. It's like, in that case, because Vanessa is kind of a happy MC. Like she's pretty easygoing, fluffy. Like she would love that, and she would love all of like millefeuilles and eclairs.
Oh, so good. Okay, Misa, what about your characters?
Okay. Can I just say I know you all. It's like 7:30. And it's only 4:30, and I'm starting to get so hungry.
I'm ready for dinner after this.
So let's see. In this time will be different. One of CJ's favorite foods is ramen. There's so many great ramen shops around here. I live in California, Northern California, and she gets takeout ramen from a restaurant in San Jose that actually exists called Orenchi, which is Japanese slang for my house. And it's what I think her mom doesn't cook because she's a venture capitalist. She works really hard, and her aunt, who also lives with them, also doesn't really cook. So for me, it makes sense that her favorites are all takeout. And it's it's Japanese with sort of this American twist, and it's the simple, sort of straightforward version. Nothing fancy, just like her. So delicious chewy noodles and salty broth, and I love noodle soup, which is why and Sana really loves her mom's. It's called tsukimi soba, which is a special soba that you eat on the biggest summer full moon, or is it fall full moon? Sorry, biggest harvest moon. There we go. And you eat it with a fried egg on top, or a raw egg cracked on top. The yolk looks like the moon, and she kind of waxes poetic about how delicious her mom's full moon soba is. But she also loves frozen custard from Wisconsin, because that's where she's originally from. And I picked a store, like a real store that she would have gotten it from. And I put it in an early draft, and I have a good friend who's from that area in Milwaukee. And she's like, that is not the best kind. And before my next draft was due, she actually she was going to go to Wisconsin, and she got her favorite. And then the one that I had put in the book, wrapped it all up with dry ice, brought it back, and said, you need to come over for a taste test, because I want you to put this other store in the book. So
that's dedication right there.
Yes.
Well, actually, that leads in pretty well to my next question, which is, when you guys started writing your books, did you deliberately set out to make food a big part of the story, or did it just, show up there because you were thinking about the food yourself? Because I feel like sometimes, it also would probably depend on if you guys plan your stories ahead of time or not, I guess, or get to know your characters, because that would probably answer the question pretty well. But I am curious, did you think about for you, Gloria, did you think dumplings have to be in this book? For example?
I didn't, although I made a joke once, because I was reading this book, it was one of those giving you tips on how to stand out as an author. And one of them said something about how you want your spine to have something unique. And I remember joking to my husband, how cool would it be if there was a dumpling on it or something? And then it ended up happening, but I didn't plan for it. For me, the food just naturally weaves into it, just because I write about identity and family. And for me, those are so intertwined that I can't write about one without having the other. I don't plan ahead of time what foods I'm going to use, but I try to pick kind of the more fun ones. Hot pot makes sense because that was kind of a fun scene to write, where they're all dipping the food, and dumplings felt natural to me because my grandparents are from the Shandong province, and so I grew up making dumplings from scratch with them. And so when I was thinking of a metaphor, the dumpling one from American Panda just came to me, and it kind of grew into its own thing in the book. And then as an example for how the food just kind of weaves its way in Our Wayward Fate, the mom has a really hard time communicating with the daughter. And for me, I tried to think about what's a way for her to take a step forward that feels realistic to me. And the way that I ended up writing it was that she uses food as a metaphor. So they're making egg rolls together, and she can't come out and actually tell her daughter, that she cares or that she made a mistake, but she can do it by saying, she accidentally pokes a hole in the dumpling wrapper, and she talks about the egg roll wrapper, and she talks about how, I see now that it, that this was a mistake. And so to me, that kind of feels like something that rings true to my, childhood immigrant experience, that sometimes it's hard for you to talk about certain things, but food is kind of like a universal language that sometimes it's easier to use that to communicate, either in the example I just gave, or, by showing that you love them by piling more food on their plate.
Roselle, what about you? Because I know your books have a lot of food, especially the first one. The first one definitely had like a big food
The
aspect.
second one has quite a bit of food as well, so be prepared. The first one, it has my father's recipes in there. So
I know, I have them all marked.
But I can't help but plan it all that way. Like each recipe has a significance to the story. And yeah, these are like very personal for me because my dad wrote recipes. Yes, there were quantities. I had to erase them because they weren't accurate. I called him after. I said, I tried to recreate these. How come it doesn't taste like what you make? And he's like, I don't know. I just put it in there. It's supposed to be like that. And I'm like, it just doesn't taste right. Even if he had all of the quantities. So I'm like, I'm leaving it out and have it that way. For Vanessa, I went to Paris for the first time ever last summer.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, I had a list of food. That was my itinerary. Here's all the food you have to eat. For research, you have to do this for research, for accuracy purposes. Because you can't talk about these things and not know. So I tried to eat. Oh my goodness. It's just after you eat French pastries in Paris, it's kind of hard to not compare it to when, around here.
Yeah.
So like everything there, I was like looking at everything and just wishing that I was a cow and I had 4 stomachs to fit it all in, because like I would be full and I'm like, no, but this is on my list. I have to cram. No, like it's that kind of, bad problem. But yes, I have to plan. I have to plan everything out. Like for my next books, food is the first thing that I plan out.
I love that. I actually really love that. Misa, what about you?
I'm sorry. I'm just listening to the stories and I forgot the question. What was? Did I plan it into my book? Sorry.
No, you got it.
Yeah. So let's see. Well, it's not like it's a secret. I guess I didn't start off knowing that that's where I would go. Like that Sana and her mother would have this connection with food and like that. But a lot. I modeled a lot of their relationship on my own relationship with my mom, and so all that food stuff naturally came out, where her mother's just always cooking, and Sana just has all, and then it became a thing where, she goes to her girlfriend's house and has food there, and so it becomes sort of a through line as a way, food as a way of showing your emotions and how much you care about somebody. And this time will be different. Yeah, this time will be different. I did put a lot of restaurants in there, just mostly for fun. And because I love
Nothing wrong with that.
food, and I just wanted to shout out all my favorite restaurants.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
Judy, what about you?
I think what's interesting me about how food is involved in my stories, just through researching about the movement of like the variety of food across, of course, ancient China, because there's so many variations in the weather. So depending on where they can grow in the north compared to what they can grow in the south, will affect the type of food that they are able to make and to eat. So I just found that really fascinating just by doing throughout my research. And of course, the more that I read about it, I mean, I found out that the palace kitchens, they had 4 or 5 departments, and each department's like devoted to one area. Like there's a meat department, and then there's one area that's just for rice, and then there's like a dessert and bakery department. So I just thought that would just putting that into my story was so much fun. And of course, with tea magic, it's natural to pair tea with food, and of course pair tea with different like Chinese medicines and all of that, like interplay of drinks and food, and it's such a big part of culture too. Like in Taiwan, if we see somebody, you would ask like "jiababe," which is "have you eaten yet?" So I just feel like to not include that as part of like would be to like not showcase as such a huge part of my culture and my background. So I had a lot of fun putting that into my story.
I feel like you guys all had a lot of fun putting the food into your stories, if I'm being honest, because it sounds like you really enjoyed it. Okay, so I have a few more questions, but I also wanted to make sure that anyone watching knows that they can also ask questions. We're going to be opening up for that pretty soon. Okay, so my next question is more of a fun one. What is your favorite fictional food or your favorite fictional food scene? And it doesn't have to be from a book. It can be from any sort of media. I'm very curious about this. Anybody have one right off the bat? Okay, go for it.
So, yeah, I was with butterbeer.
The best.
Oh yeah.
Well, here's the thing: is that I don't like the Disney or the Harry Potter world
Studio one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that. I mean, it's nice, but I feel like real butterbeer would taste more like golden. I don't know. I don't even.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
You know,
I get that.
Yeah. So I just feel like I want to have like real butterbeer that they really had at Hogwarts, which obviously is impossible.
It would be pretty cool if we could.
That's my wish. And yeah.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. For me, it is any of the food that they showed in Spirited Away.
Yes.
Yes, so true.
Every single one, all of those feasts, like it's just, that is one animated movie that just has just the food is just glorious in that one.
Oh, it really is. Gloria, Judy?
So I'll pick a food-related scene since you guys picked foods.
Okay.
So one scene that I really related to was in When Dimple Met Rishi, and Dimple goes out to eat with like the rich kids, and they will go to this fancy restaurant, and she orders the mac and cheese, and she's worried about how much it costs. And I really relate to the stressing about what you're going to order in a public setting or in a professional setting. You know, you don't want to order the messy thing that's going to get all over you, or you don't want to order something too expensive or too cheap depending on who's paying. And so I'm that person that like always looks up the menu before and tries to think through all these different things. And so I really related to that scene. I thought she did a good job capturing that, you know, anxiety that comes with the group settings.
Oh yeah, I actually feel the same way about that scene. Plus I would have also ordered the mac and cheese. That's just what I would have done.
You can't go wrong with mac and cheese.
Right? Judy, what about you?
I think I guess it's not really a food specific related scene, but in The Star Touched Queen by Roshani Chokshi, she has one scene where she's walking through the market, the night bazaar, and she just talks about like the smell of like toasted corn and like salted corn and roasted nuts and the smokiness of it. And then she like there's just so many like different smells and tastes and things that are really evocative in the description. So it kind of reminded me of like going to a night market too, and just seeing all the different sights and the experiences. And yeah, so I really enjoyed that scene of, it's just so imaginative. It's one of the best, I think, scenes that I've ever read in a fantasy novel.
That's a good one, actually. You're reminding me of it. I read it so long ago, but you talking about it just brought it all back. Okay, this is the last question from me for right now. And we're going to go with book recommendations. But since we're talking about food, you have to pair it with a dish. Okay? I feel like Judy already knows what she wants to say for this one, so she can go first.
Okay. Yes, I picked Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. And because there are lots of really delicious food descriptions in her book. Her book is about a human girl, paper girl, who goes into the demon king's palace and becomes kind of one of her concubines, and then she has to kind of survive in the palace and kind of falls in love with a fellow paper concubine. And it's just some of the descriptions in her book are really food related, of course, and it's really fun, and it just brings back just different details of her heritage, but also in a really imaginative, like fantastical way. So I love that. And it mentions a dish in there called like coconut kui. I'm not sure if it's like I
don't know how to say it.
Malaysian, Malaysian dessert. I think it looks like kind of like a jelly almost. It has like two layers so it just definitely made me want to try it, like look up all these different sweets, because I've never been to Malaysia, but just seems like a place that I would love to go to, and also want to try like a curry laksa, and because it seems to have all the flavors that I would love, but I've never had a chance to try an authentic one. So that's something I think would pair well with reading that book.
I think that's a great choice. Who wants to go next?
The first one that came to mind doesn't have a lot of food in the book, but I don't know, it just popped into my head. I read it recently. It's called The Perfect Escape by Suzanne Park. And it's a really fun book about these two teens who are doing this zombie kind of survival adventure game. And it came into my mind because I was just thinking it would be funny to pair that with like a red velvet cupcake because of the zombies and the blood and everything. But also because I love the book, but that's just what popped into my head.
I really want to read that book. It sounds like it's
it's very fun.
Okay, who's next? Roselle?
I'll go. I was going to recommend Suzanne's other book, which is her debut for women's fiction, Loathe at First Sight.
That's
and it's
right?
it's a love to hate, like a love to hate romance.
Uh-huh.
And for that, I'm going to recommend Donuts. Donuts because Suzanne, not from the book, because Suzanne loves donuts. And when I say donuts, I mean like fresh off the belt, newly born Krispy Kreme donuts that are just warm in your hands. Donuts.
That is very specific, and I love it. I approve wholeheartedly. That book comes out later this year, right?
It's August. It used to be the same date as mine. Like we were going to be release twins, but I think it's August 18th.
Okay.
No.
Just for everyone's reference so that they know. All right, Misa, finish us off.
Yes. So I actually have two, but
no, you can do both.
Okay. This is My Brain in Love by I.W. Gregorio. Just came out earlier this month. And it's about a girl, Jocelyn, who her family runs a Chinese restaurant, and it's failing, and which means she's not gonna, they're not gonna be able to afford to send her to the school she wants to go to and do the things she wants to do. So, and also, of course, she wants to help save the restaurant. And she's going out. She starts seeing this boy whose parents are Nigerian immigrants, and he starts working at the restaurant. And the father does not like him because he's Black, and says, "Guess what? You guys can stay together, but you have to save the restaurant." And so,
wow.
Yeah. So there's food, and so I would pair it with. I don't know how to say it in like actual Chinese. It's like I looked it up, and it sounds like jiaozi. Right, like dumplings, basically.
Love
and then the dumplings play a role kind of in the end when she's yay, saves the restaurant, and then and her Nigerian American boyfriend loves these things called puff puffs, which to me sounds like basically donut holes. It's fried dough balls. So that's something I would love to try one day.
Sounds really good.
Yeah. And sorry. Yeah, one more.
I was gonna say, do you want to share the second one?
Magic ramen, which is another like directly food related book about the guy who invented instant ramen.
Love it.
So obviously the pairing would be instant ramen.
ramen.
And that's by Andrea Wang. Yeah. So
Okay, now it's time for questions from other people, not me. All right, let's have our first audience question. Thanks, you guys, for asking questions, by the way. Okay, so this is from Belinda, and it says, do you have any suggestions on how to describe food? There's a lot of times I'll try to describe food from my heritage, but I never know how to describe it in English. And also I get nervous, hold on, there's a part 2, about the ingredients that may come off as not appetizing to an audience who isn't used to them. I think you guys can definitely say something about that. All right, who wants to go first?
When you're describing food.
Sorry, go.
Oh, sorry.
You're okay.
No, please go. Please go.
Okay. For me, the way that I describe food is always to focus on all of your senses. It's not only a visual thing. You're thinking about visual, sound, taste, smell. Like, focus on that. And as for describing things that may seem a little too unfamiliar, let's say for Western audiences and stuff, I mean, I could describe some. Let's take something like pate. Pate can be gross when you describe it as just goose liver mushed up, put on a plate. Or you can describe it as a mousse. It's a silky mousse that has a very earthy kind of almost gamey texture to it. The best ones is served over toasted baguette slices that you spread over, almost like a very delicious meat Nutella. So you can have it both. So you can play around and have it so that you can use something that people can mostly relate to, and use that at least as a mental
Reference?
It is.
Yeah.
That's a little different.
I like that
That was
advice.
a good answer.
And a great example.
Right? Gloria, do you have anything you wanted to add?
I was going to say that I feel like this extends not just to food, but so many things that we write about, right? Feel like you have to go the extra mile to explain, but you also don't want it to come across like you're explaining too much. And it's such a hard thing to find that balance. For me, I try to go back to the basics. I try to use words that people understand, and the 5 different tastes: sweet, salty, bitter. Using some of those words will kind of give them a baseline reference, and then you can kind of build it from there. I use garlicky a lot because we use garlic and everybody knows what that tastes like, and whether they find it good or bad, that's on them, not me. But I feel like on the flip side, this is just like a little funny aside. In Rent a Boyfriend, the mom makes really bad fusion food. Like, she'll try to mix American and Chinese things. And, I call it Franken food. And it's so bad that in that case, you can just pick familiar things and all you have to say is what it is. And, when I tell you that it was an egg and honey Kraft single sandwich on raisin bread, to picture how all those things don't go together. And I didn't make that sandwich up. That is something that tastes like it sounds. But that's all I'll say to protect
Yeah.
But if you use the stuff that people can recognize and kind of build it from there, I think that helps. But I also still like to use the Chinese words because I think to a lot of people that has a really deep connection, when they hear certain things. And so I kind of do both. I'll mix it, but then I'll try to kind of describe how it tastes too.
Yeah.
So that context clues, right?
Yeah.
So they can sort of guess what it is.
Yeah. And I just want to jump in really quick.
Yeah, go for it.
2 things. One is, I agree with Gloria that there's sort of that we're in that space where on the one hand, you really want people to understand things. And on the other hand, you don't want to pander, right? So a lot of the times, sometimes I just leave things as they are because, everybody has Google. If you don't really know what something is and you're dying to know, usually the ingredients aren't key to understanding the scene. But so I'm like, it's look it up, not hard. And this worry about like, oh, Americans might not like to eat, like, say, dried squid for snacks, right? I don't know. So Belinda, my advice to you on that is like, who cares? like Gloria, you can talk a little bit about your choice to use the snacks that probably a lot of white Americans would be like, gross, I would never have that.
It's true. Judy, have anything you want to add?
I think that's what I feel too. I definitely agree with everyone in saying that it's the language that we choose to describe the food that we write about is really important, because you can there have been like articles written with kind of like white food critics where they describe, like, I guess ethnic, I say that, like it's just our food, but they describe it in a way like where it's difficult or exotic or different. And I try to really hard to move away from that, because it's something that it's familiar to us and to our families, and I feel like you just write it as you experience, as you see it. So you can write it with the taste and the smells and maybe the experience of cooking it, and I think they'll come across in your writing, where that growing up with it will just be enriched by your own experiences, and it will show up on the page, and then the people who know about it will understand exactly what you're saying, and the people who don't know, they can Google it, and then people who are interested will go and find out more. Just like my interest in Malaysian food has increased since reading about When Girls With Paper and Fire, and I think that's interesting to me to find out and want to discover more.
I like that. Okay, next question. I think we have another one. Okay, it's actually from Suzanne Park.
That's so fun.
As you can see, she's saying, what were you snacking on while writing your food scenes? I think, Roselle, you should go first because you have been called out.
I snack on a lot of stuff. Mostly if I can get to the grocery store, I always get the savory. I have to have something savory, like shrimp crackers or the Filipino clover chips, the ones that come in different flavors, like barbecue or peewees or any. I have to cover all the bases for whatever I'm craving: salty, sweet, spicy, all of that. Like Suzanne knows, she gets like a little picture in her text of what I'm eating when I'm reading.
She's trying to make you confess to the internet, I think. Okay, Judy, what about you?
I don't really have any go-to snacks, because I feel like that distracts me while I'm writing, but I drink a lot of tea. Because now, of course, with my book that I'm writing, I have to write about a lot of tea. But I just feel like having a certain tea puts me in a particular mood to write a scene. So now I buy a lot of different like oolong teas from Taiwan, or like Ruby 18 teas, and then now it's just, that's another whole rabbit hole of the tea universe. Is like the same as like the food universe, and so that's my go-to, is just, or even like an Earl Grey tea. That's also something I love, that puts me in the writing mood, just that smell and that taste. So that's what I do when I'm writing.
Misa, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm a tea drinker also. And I yeah, just like Judy, I actually love to snack, but I find that it's actually not helpful for me, because I can't do both. Like, so I end up eating instead of writing, and and so that I end up with like a paragraph, and then I've also eaten 15 Oreos, or so. I've realized, like, I've finally, after 2 years, like, maybe best not to have the snacks available.
I'm the same. I drink a lot of tea, and then I don't eat while I write, but I'll snack on seaweed, like, in between.
Oh, I love that too. That is a good thing to snack on. I think we have time for one more question. All right, let's see what we've got. All right, I'm going to butcher your name. I'm sorry, but it looks like her name is Deba. And she said, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? That is a very hard question. I'm so glad I don't have to answer it. First thing, I was like, I feel like it's a challenge because you guys all like food a lot too. So there's so many options.
I know. One for the
I know which one mine would be.
Okay, go for it. What's yours, Roselle?
It's what I always order every time I'm at a Japanese restaurant. It's always, if it's on the menu, I will order it every single time, and it is the chirashi bowl.
Good choice.
That's my sister's favorite.
Oh,
Good.
anybody else have their answer ready?
I think deep dish pizza, Chicago deep dish pizza.
Also
Oh.
a great choice.
It's got all the different like flavors and textures. So maybe I could just eat the cheese if I got tired of the crust.
Or just the crust if you only
Or
wanted
just
the
the crust,
bread. Makes sense. That's smart planning.
I feel like I have to go with soup dumplings just because it's my favorite, and I feel like it would take me a long time to get sick of them.
Smart. What kind though?
Well, my favorites are the Ding Tai Fung ones. Just they're like basic ones, the pork ones. Like
Those are my
I've
favorites,
tried
too.
all the different ones, but I feel like the basic one is still the best.
It's a classic for a reason, right?
It's a classic, yeah.
All right, Judy, down to you.
I think mine would still be beef noodle soup. There's just something about it where I guess you can switch up. I can use thick noodles instead of thin noodles.
That's true. That's true. That's a good thing.
Yeah, there's also like the braised beef with like a thicker broth, or you can go with a lighter broth. So I feel like there's some variety there.
So everybody picks something that sort of has options, basically, that you can play with, which is smart, I think, if you're going to think about eating this for the rest of your life, and that's the only thing you're eating. I am very sad to say that we've come to the end of our time on this panel. It's been so much fun talking about food and writing and books. And I'm so grateful that you guys are all here to join us. You guys definitely need to check out all these authors and their books as well. So thanks for joining us for the AAPI Book Month panel on Asian food and identity. If you want to learn more about AAPI Book Month panels, the schedule, all of that good stuff, you can go to AsianAuthorAlliance.com. Happy AAPI Book Month, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Alexa.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Alexa.
Alexa.